Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we're joined for an interview, and
Ooh, it's a good one.
I'm excited for this one. Today we're joined with Ryan Rutherford. He's the
Rutherford.
He's the co-founder of the studio behind Dungeons of Eternity, and he's also the game designer behind the game. Probably wears the many hats. We'll find that out a little bit more, but I'm so excited for this one. We've been playing Dungeons of Eternity basically every night.
Yeah, I can't help it.
I'm addicted to getting loot.
I really can't help it.
I'm hooked. So as a fan, I'm so excited to talk to you today, Ryan. So before we get carried away, though, do you mind introducing yourself a little bit more to our listeners and also telling them exactly what Dungeons of Eternity is? I imagine they've heard it from us a few times.
People have heard the wave, but anyways.
Well, I can start with the studio. So my name is Ryan Rutherford. I'm game designer at Othergate and one of the co-founders. We're a really small team. We're about 6 people full time, and then we have additional help with audio and music and such. And the core team of Othergate is around 6 people, but we have 4 co-founders, and we have an interesting history leading up to this company. We started around 2021. Before that, though, several of us were at Oculus for about 7+ years. So we've been doing VR for quite a long time and went through all the different iterations of, Gear VR was where we started, and DK1 to all the way up through, the Rift launch, and then working with, touch controllers and figuring out how to do full body IK. And some of the projects we did internally there were Dead and Buried. I'm not sure if anyone has played that or is familiar with that, but it was like a 2v2 multiplayer shootout for the Rift. So we got sort of early experience doing, full body avatars, multiplayer, things like that as a small team. And then from there, we went and did, tech demos for other platforms within the company. And then we went and did this crazy Dead and Buried arena demo where it was like 80 by 60 room scale, or arena scale is what we called it. 3-on-3, like Quest 1 headsets. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that before. That was at like Oculus Connect 5 or something like that. So we did some crazy tech demos there. We've had a lot of experience as a team, and then we decided it was time to leave and start our own studio and focus on building our own VR games with unlimited control. Go and build whatever the heck we want. So that's how Othergate found it. That's the short story. So
I'm amazed already at because you've been in this for a long time.
A real OG.
7+ years working with Oculus that's insane.
Yeah. And did you have, it sounds like you bounced around a lot of different projects, some software. And did you have a technical title at Oculus, like a specific role, or did you bounce around a lot?
My title was like software engineer, but I don't write any code. So we're like this little, we call ourselves the little strike team within Oculus Studios. So we had Studios was the sort of the publisher, publishing things like Asgard's Wrath and Lone Echo and these bigger titles. And then we were like this tiny little team internally going out and, prototyping with the new hardware and seeing what we can do and push those things. And then some of those things would turn into tech demos that we would show at, GDC or Oculus Connect and show other developers like kind of what the technology was, what was possible with that. So I mostly focus on, environment art and game design and lighting and all of that. So I'm building a lot of the 3D environments that you interact in and then kind of thinking from like a high level, like what can we do with this tech? How do we take advantage of this? How do we utilize this to really try and push, presence and things like that and immersion with this technology. So we did a lot of things there. Before that, 2 of us were at id Software back in the day. So we've done a lot of first-person shooters, and that's how I got into, building games and things like that. And just from picking up mod tools and building levels. And so we were at id, and so we got to know, Carmack pretty well and everything like that. So when he needed help, we were already an external studio. We were doing mobile games, and he reached out to us and wanted us to prototype with the Gear VR. And I was hooked ever since. I just love working in VR. It's such a cool platform to work on, so I've been focusing on that for about 7+ years. But the rest of the team has too. We picked up a couple others along the way, and those guys became the core founding members of Othergate. And now we're on to Dungeons of Eternity. So
that's a hell of a background all around. I mean, it shows why.
Well, to be that deep in the technology, and I'm sure you were privy to technology that may or may not have come to fruition. So you got to like try things that even as a consumer today, we've never got to experience, and probably have an understanding more of the future of the projects than the average person as well. So to be able
seeing
to
the evolution has been really interesting and really exciting, you know, being part of the going from, you know, we had, you know, just the DK1, you could look around, but you couldn't move. And then we had the DK2, we had this little external sensor, and you had this little volume that you could move within, but it was very limited. But you could start to see the promise there. And then you had like the room scale with Rift and everything. And then, well, we just had an Xbox controller. So then they developed touch controllers, and then just the evolution of it, you could just see. It's almost like it happened. It's amazing how fast it happened. Like it happened too fast to where I think a lot of, you know, game design and things, or even genres, are trying to catch up, or a lot of developers are experimenting with things, see what works. But then there's like this now we have MR coming online. So we have this new technology that's going to disrupt in different ways, or there's going to be new experiences altogether that we can build with MR. So it's constantly, it's cool to see the fast evolution of this platform, really.
And now we're at a point that there's a standalone headset with pancake lenses. It's going to have full upper body tracking soon. It's going to have AI estimated
consumer
legs.
Friendly too. It's not the most expensive hardware to.
No, not at all. So, I mean, it is amazing to see how far it's come. And you look at your background, you know, not just yours, other people at the studio as well, you know, Oculus, ID, you know, influences from Carmack.
ID used to be the shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it shows why something that's huge about Dungeons of Eternity, the gameplay loop in it is just fun. All other things aside, it's just fun to go in, do a run, finish, and do another run. And the gameplay loop itself is fun. And there's a lot of core game philosophy to learn, you know, or in those influences that you guys came from. So you can really see the experience that the team has in just how fun Dungeons of Eternity is. And with the studio coming together in 2021, I'm guessing this is Othergate's first game, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. But for their first game, look how polished it is. Look how fun it is.
Yeah,
it's just
it came
a fun
even
loop.
optimized it with the
Quest 3.
Yeah, for the Quest 3, which holy Moses.
So it's just a fun gameplay loop. And that's so important, in my opinion, for why the game's so successful, because it's fun. Sometimes people try to make a game.
It's addicting is what it is, because you get reward. So
it's not just built off of one gimmick, one gameplay mechanic, one game mode. It's just
it's starting to make sense
loop.
now, though, when you have a team like that, I mean, collectively can know like what's going to attract the player, what's going to get the player coming back, and feeding that need, which you and I like to do the dungeon runs to get loot.
Yeah, addicted on loot.
I'm always searching for a better chest drop of, like, I hear rumor of epics, which I've never personally experienced, but which we can actually jump into if you want, because I have questions about the. Is there epic weapons? Like, is there actually an epic? I know you've got rare, unique,
legendary.
Well,
common as well. We skipped common.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are only 4 sets. So you got the common, then you got unique, rare, and then legendary. And then as you move up through the game, though, like you level up, you know, in a traditional, you know, dungeon crawler or something like that. So you level up through these invisible tiers, basically. So the game jumps in difficulty, but we also unlock, you know, new weapon styles. And so at the beginning of the game, even around level 20 some, you know, 25 or so, you might pick up a legendary sword, but it's maybe, you know, you can't see on the screen, but maybe this big, you know. So when you get legendary later, when you're level 45 or something, it's going to, the blade will be longer. It's going to look cooler. So we unlock new styles as you play through. So you may get a legendary later. It's going to have different stats, different perks and such, but it also should look much cooler. It should look badass. So and over time, we can also add more to this giant pool of assets to, you know, we may have an update. We throw in some new styles and you jump back in and I've never seen this before. And that's even fun from like the developer side. Like it's kind of like a common game design trope or game developer thing where you say that you make games for yourself. And there's a lot of that, right? Because you want to make something you enjoy playing. And the idea of being able to just hop into a game, smash a bunch of monsters with your friends and keep collecting things that's exciting for the developers who've built everything, and like being able to see and experience new things all the time. That was a big part of the core, philosophy and design of the game. So we wanted to build something to where even we can jump back in and enjoy it over and over again. And I'll still hop in with, new players who are playing the game live and everything and have a really good time and come across situations to where I've never encountered coming in this room from this angle, seeing these monsters with these weapons. And there's enough variation there that we felt pretty good about the replayability and how it could work, but we knew we were building like a foundation of something we could continue to add to, so we can keep it fresh, long term for fans of the game relatively easily through new styles of weapons, and without even adding new weapon types. That's a whole other thing, but just adding more styles to where it's fresh to come back to over and over again, hopefully.
The co-founder of the game designer, is still himself encountering new situations. That's incredible. And you threw something in there so subtly that I didn't know. So I knew the game was like with loot, it was randomly generated, the style, the perks associated with it. I knew all that. But what I didn't know is that the size of it correlates with your level. Because when I first started playing, I was like, man, all my swords they're so short. And then I recently got a sword that's much longer. And I'm about level 23, 24. So as I keep leveling up, my weapons are going to get bigger, longer blades, and everything like that.
Bigger and better in every way, basically. Yeah.
Holy moly!
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's incredible.
I almost didn't know that.
We don't have like Cloud Strife size swords yet. Someone in the Discord the other day was asking for that, which
great swords,
would be pretty funny. Yeah. And, but they get larger and just cooler looking, and to, really want to encourage players to continue playing and going after that cool loot. So,
well, the players are playing because we had early access, so we were in it, but I still looked at leaderboards, and then on day one,
we were instantly down to like 8,000.
I was like, oh my God. I'm like, what the hell just happened? I was like, I went from like 20 something on one of them to literally thousands, and then a week later I'm like, wow,
it's just going down.
People are hitting it hard to be able to get
fun loop. And
so out of the gate, I think people were,
no pun intended to Othergate either, but are you able to say off the top of your head how many different weapons are actually in the game, and even more difficult, how many different perks are in the game?
I can tell you how many types. So there are 8 types of weapons. So you have like a sword, an axe, hammer, things like that. And then within there, we have like the magic staffs. And within the magic staffs, there are 7 or 8 different variations of those as well. So we have like the fireball staff, which, it's the magic staffs are our answer to the magic system in our game. So we put everything into the weapons to keep, have just a very few number of systems. So all the magic stuff goes through the weapon system and everything. So we have these different magic staffs. So one's a healing staff. So if one wants to play as a healer, they go around and zap everyone and fill them up with health. They want to freeze someone, and then another player can come over and have these really cool co-op moments where one player freezes them, comes over and smashes with the axe. That never gets old, which is cool.
That's me and him. That's our play style. Yeah. I'm hitting the ice.
I love staff. The double team bully method is so friggin' awesome.
Then within those, we have, different styles, like visual styles. Like we have within the sword, you have like a saber or, a broadsword and things like that. So there are visual varieties within each type as well. So there's a bunch. And then there are different perks on top of that. I can't remember off the top of my head how many perks are. Some of the perks are shared between all the different weapons. And then certain weapons have their own perks themselves. They're only for that weapon. So we have like throwing distance for the axe. You can only get that on an axe.
Although it was pretty cool. I got a sword the other night that is throwable, and that was a really nice perk to have on a sword. I was like, no way this thing's throwable. Then I chuck it at the...
What's weird is when you threw it, I could sense the weight of the sword. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to hear, but I could tell. I'm like, that's a heavy sword.
Yeah. Well, it didn't just plop down either like you would normally throw a sword, so you could tell it was throwable. And for yourself as the co-founder, game designer, do you have a favorite weapon that you have found so far?
I love just using the axe. That's my favorite weapon. I love throwing the axe. That was something we got in pretty early in the game. We really wanted to have this feeling of, the early Gauntlet games, you're throwing axes, or God of War, where you're Kratos and you're throwing, like the later God of War, where it feels really good to throw those weapons. And what would that feel like in VR? What I want to be those characters. I want to play those roles, as a player. And so that was something we got in pretty early, and we wanted to make it easy, like where you basically throw in that direction and you're going to hit the monster. And it just feels really good. So I love using the axe. I love using the bow as well. It's fun to it's really, I think it feels good, but it's just fun to run around and use the bow. So all the weapons have their own sort of thing that makes them special or unique. I even like running in with the sword and just, sword playing with the skeletons, as you can parry them and everything. And then, depending on where they have their armor, we can, if they're not wearing pants, you can go for the legs and take them out. If they have a helmet on, then they have more protection up there. But the sword's really good about kind of delivering specific hits in different areas. So
I've also
each weapon kind of has their thing, right? So
quite effective with stabbing. Be a little pokey with the sword. It's kind of nice on the zombies because they're walking up slow. You can just kind of jab and back up, jab and back up.
I love that you can block also.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you can defend as well as. I mean, well, I'm talking about the red guys because they give me the most battle. Like the red armored skeletons with swords that are
jump at you.
Yeah. And the first time I shot my crossbow at one and it dodged, I went, "What? It just dodged a freaking arrow, man!" And then he jumped to the side and then literally jumped at me, and of course I got hit at that time. But I was not prepared for that kind of NPC mechanic.
No, and
dodging an arrow.
And you mentioned staffs and that there's some variety on them. This one's a selfish question for myself. I did find a staff that had no perk on it. It was just a wooden stick, basically. Am I missing something with that weapon, or is that basically it?
It's a stick, basically. It's a big walking stick. You can poke the spiders if you want, but
okay, that was my vibe.
In the new update, we renamed that to a melee staff to hopefully avoid confusion there. But we've had a lot of questions about that. It's got just the light on the end, and you can use it as a light with it.
How am I using it wrong?
Yeah, no, that's funny. That's actually the answer I was hoping for as well. So just to jump around a bit, we didn't go into this part specifically. How did Dungeons of Eternity come to be?
I think it's, we all come together and think about what do we want to make? What's inspiring us? What are things we've wanted to make for a long time? But some of us on the team have wanted to do, randomly generated levels for a long time. It seemed like a good challenge. It seemed like a good way to maximize the amount of content in the game for our small team as well. And looking at the sort of the ecosystem as well, there are dungeon crawlers for VR. Most of them are on PC side, or you have things like Blade and Sorcery, which is playing with, it's more of a simulation game without going through a bunch of dungeons or a lot of progression. So, but we know those games are really interesting and popular, and we like those games on traditional. We like Diablo and Zelda and Gauntlet and things like that. So that's sort of the direction we started in. And then we started looking for, what is really inspiring this game? What's the feeling we're going after as well? So I like to look at different films and different games and things like that. And that scene there's a lot of inspiration for Dungeons of Eternity, but that scene from the first Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, where they're in the mines of Moria and they get locked in, and then the orcs come in and the cave troll busts through, and you have everyone there. The whole fellowship is there, and they're just defending, and they're basically playing a co-op dungeon crawler in this movie. And it's very much a video game scene, I think, in a movie. And that feeling of being, in these areas where you have enemies coming from all directions and using physics-based combat to take them out. And someone can play as Legolas and use the bow and throw axes and do all these things and then work well together and do it in VR. That was kind of the feeling we're going after. And so just kind of, once we started building that, we're like, yeah, this seems like a good business decision as well. There weren't a lot of games like this for the store. It seemed like something people were asking for as well. Let's build a co-op game instead of a PvP game. Let's build something without guns. Let's build something, with physics focus, and let's push on some new tech with, random generated dungeons and weapons. So it kind of checked all the boxes, and we just started heading in that direction. And one of the first things we do is try and get multiplayer up and running, because that's the foundation. You have to build everything on top of the network stack. And we started just playing around, and we have these high level ideas of what the game could be, but then we start playing around and figuring out, oh, this would be cool. Or, oh, look at him up there. Look how cool that is. Like, what if we could get up there easily? Okay, well, what if we had, chains you could climb? And then, we found out that was really fun, but then it was hard to dismount. And so we just iterate, and we just kind of build the game over and over, and jump in over and over. And, we have a direction we're heading and things that we want to try and accomplish, but, that core gameplay loop and that foundation is absolutely the most important. So once we found that there was some fun thing, some fun element there, then start to scope it out. And, I think it took about 8 months to finally lock down a good solid demo build, which, really looking back I think that came together pretty quickly. I think we had a good idea of where we wanted to go with it, and we had experience building multiplayer before. So this was just a sort of a different approach. Let's put players on a team and let's fight some monsters. And once we got that working, and just went from there, and then we just kept building more and more. And yeah, that's kind of how it started.
The random aspect of the game is everything, both in loot and in dungeons.
A 1,000,000% game changer for replayability.
Every 20 minutes, basically, you're getting new dungeons, 4 different areas.
Different layouts.
So it's incredible. And like you said earlier, you're still yourself encountering new situation stuff. So random is everything in this game. And was that a struggle from, a game design standpoint to get working? I was wondering if even
from a programming standpoint, is it easier to do fixed levels or easier to program something to randomize fixed levels? I would think the randomization would be harder.
I imagine so as well.
At first, you're like, oh yeah, that shouldn't be too bad. Like we could do that. Like the random dungeons are basically going to be this classic Zelda dungeon layouts, essentially where that layout structure comes from, where you have room to room to room to room, and it's all put together, or like a Metroidvania type game where you have these separate chunks within the whole, and then you have this whole dungeon, and then so we would build these little pre-built rooms, and then we'd have different doors so we could rotate the room and put locks up and gates, and then change the visual style. So we have like these different realms, and on paper, that's not that hard. But then you get in there and you start building it. It's like, all right, we built the rooms, and then you got to build a whole random generation system. We started with a different solution early on, and then decided we needed to just build our own. So we built a ton of custom tools, a ton of custom, features within the game that allow us to iterate quickly or test things quickly, and debug menus, and just a whole suite of tools to help the development side. And yeah, it was a challenge. It was a challenge to build the random generation, working over multiplayer, making sure everyone is synced up, and people can jump in at any time, have this playing the same level. We had a point where people are jumping in, the levels are different. It's like, well, that completely breaks everything, So there were a lot of challenges there. Balancing a randomly generated in co-op game where people are different levels, different skill sets. I think even in VR, we have different skill sets, I've heard the game is way too easy. I've heard the game is way too hard, and balancing for that is impossible. So we try and iterate and just try and, we'll listen to the feedback and say, this is too hard, or we watch videos and see where things aren't working. And we just try and balance as best we can with all the different varied play styles that players have. And, you in VR, you're bringing your body in. So people are physically swinging weapons and moving around. And it's a lot different than just pushing a button on the controller, and trying to balance to that is already difficult. So trying to balance for a randomly generated game in general that was a challenge. And then, the technical challenges is putting it all together just comes with the territory, building a networking game. So,
well, random generated dungeons, and then within the dungeons, you've got the chests
that are randomly
I'm assuming are randomly generated. And then if you've got people of extreme level differences playing at the same time, does it compensate for that?
I think it scales to the highest level player, correct?
It's supposed to find the average, but oftentimes it's, if you have 3 and you're going to get a harder play session. So that's hard for new players. So, eventually we're going to add, either difficulty selection, or different levels have, difficulty baked in. So you can kind of select, something that fits more of your play style, or you want to play something a little bit easier and more for a challenge. You have more options. So
would a higher difficulty level grant you better loot?
I think that there's a lot of ways to do it. You could do it so that if you die, you don't get any loot unless you escape. You could call it an extreme mode. I'm down for that stuff.
Well,
a lot of players have wanted something like that, like a hardcore mode, to where it's you die, you lose everything, or you don't get to keep all of your loot, or we take off auto aim on the weapons, and you got to run over and pick up your weapons, like all of these things. There's
higher difficulty
I don't know
enemies
if I'm
too.
throwing my axe if I got to go run and pick it up.
Well, because I feel for you all with exactly what you said. You can't, some people it's too easy, some people it's too hard. What I found with the game is when you first go in and you don't know how to play yet, and you're in your peasant clothes and you have your basic axe and everything, and your sword, it's hard. But then you get better both as a player, and your loot gets better. Like your weapons get a lot better.
And you get perks. And
so then it hits the point where it's not that it's too easy, but definitely it gets easier. It's like a challenge your first couple runs, and then from there you should be able, in my opinion, to carry.
I also like to think you get better at something the more you're playing
your skill
it.
Gets,
so just through natural.
Correct.
No matter what the game.
So I think some sort of difficulty settings or an extreme mode, hardcore, something like that,
Dude,
it would help.
I've heard people want everything for this game.
Well, because it's so
from
good.
That, I've heard the PvP, which we even questioned if that's ever coming down the road.
Because the swords clink together good.
Yeah,
it
just made us wonder if
But I love the focus on co-op because I'm such a big co-op fan, and co-op in VR.
I've heard endless
best.
mode too. People want like an endless mode.
They can keep that. That's all. That's all them.
Yeah, the problem we run with like the endless mode, which is funny because that seems like something we definitely should do, and we have talked a lot about how we can do that. Is just people are burning through their batteries playing VR games and burning through batteries playing this game. Like we were surprised at the average playtime session within. Like on our dashboard, like, oh wow, people are playing this game for a long time and swapping batteries and things like that. And so if you have like this endless mode, there would have to be some sort of save system involved where you can jump back in, or the levels are really short and you go down and then you go until your battery dies or something.
Well, I love that ability. You can.
I didn't even think of that, but yeah, I kill my
another
battery playing.
Design bottleneck we have there, right? Whereas like on PC, you can just sit down and play forever, or on your phone, like the phone charge lasts pretty long, but the Quest, it's not as long, so that kind of holds us back from doing certain things like that. So we'll have to work around it and come up with maybe some sort of safe solution. Like I was saying.
Well, that's a good problem to have if people are playing your game for longer than the headset allows in a battery session. That's a good problem. That means people are freaking loving it.
Oh no, just look at the leaderboards.
Yeah, exactly. And is there any weapon variant that you have that is super random, super low pickup chance? That you've yet to see anybody pick up, like a lightsaber or something like that?
There's unfortunately nothing like that yet. It's really like you have to play until we unlock basically the last tier when you get to level 50. So you got to level all the way up to finally get the last set of weapons. So if you want to collect legendary of everything, you have to get all the way of like the best weapons. You have to get all the way to the end and then play enough to collect those weapons again, basically. So. And there are people out there who have gotten to level 50 within like 3 days. Which
is
pretty impressive.
Level 50 is the max level. It sounds like.
Level,
is there plans to raise that level?
Yeah. We all, like you were saying, like there's so many ideas, and we have infinite ideas for this game as well, and aligning with the community and what people are looking for or interested in, or like what can we pull off, or what can we surprise players with. That's part of what we're working on right now, is figuring out, the roadmap and figuring out how we're going to update this thing over time, because we have so many things we could do with it. But, we want to keep the core of the game there and not change up things. We want to build on it and improve it and add things that make that better, make the end game better, make it work better for new users, make it work better for players who've been playing for a long time, or jump back in, So I think there's a lot of things we can do. And we're figuring a lot of that stuff out at the moment, actually.
Well, that's one of the most, asked things I see.
Yes.
Is is there anything for a roadmap? Is there end game content?
Sounds like
planned?
It's like a highway, not a roadmap.
Yeah. So it sounds like
pretty much.
You have ideas bouncing around. Is there anything that you're able to say of, we would like to add this content, this roadmap, or this end game content, anything like that you're able to, to comment on?
Yeah, why not? I mean, a lot of people want new weapon types. So I think we'll add more weapons because the combat is just core to the experience. Like you add a new weapon type, I think the game's going to feel a lot different. So anytime we can add a new weapon type, that's going to be, I think, a big deal for the game. New monsters, of course. So we're working on stuff there. More varied types there will also just completely change the replay value, I think, of the game and the combat moment to moment. And then, everyone wants, two-handed swords. That's actually a pretty easy thing for us to do. We just need to implement, larger swords basically and give them, bigger damage and things like that. But we have the systems and things like that already built in. So we could add things like that pretty easily. Bunch of more rooms and chambers. So as we add to that overall pool of rooms, then you'll be playing dungeons again and you'll encounter new rooms altogether. So we could completely change. We can go in different directions with the game. We could add a ton more traps or a ton more puzzles. And if we had a ton of puzzles, the game pace changes quite a bit, or if we add, more large arenas, it's more of an arena game now. It feels different. So we can also add more specific rooms to, say we add more crypt rooms. So like Underworld, that realm gets a bit more diversified. Then we start adding stuff on more like keeps and things like that. Then Lava Forge, the other realms will start to diversify more. So over time, I think the game will grow in that sense, but we'll have more reasons to jump back in, and the experience of going through dungeons should constantly be refreshed in different ways. So that's our plan with the updates. We just don't want to go out and like promise these things and then
they never come.
Those are like the easy ones, I think. Like those are like guaranteed givens, but these other features that we have in mind, we're a little hesitant to say at the moment because
understandable. You like to deliver what you promise, but what's cool about this, because of the random aspect, you had one new weapon, you had one new variant to it.
Yep.
Just off of there, that adds so much new loot possibilities. Just with that one addition, you add a new room type that adds so many new dungeons.
Let's not even bring up the just the basic stuff like armor or different changes to your avatar. So that's a whole nother area of
there's so much.
I saw people wanting to know the roadmap, and I was like pretty confident that there was more to come. It just seemed obvious.
But even if it didn't, if the game stopped today, it's a great game.
I think we even said that there doesn't. It's one of those situations where you could, if this was all you ever did and that's all you were willing to do, it's a great product. It's like there's no disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt that there was going to be a lot more. It was only the beginning.
That was definitely like from the beginning. We wanted to build something that we could continue to add to and build on. But then we didn't want to come out either as though that was like, wait till later, guys. We're going to actually add the game over time. We didn't want to come out that way. We want to come out and say, this is enough right now. Like there's 50 plus hours of gameplay. You can play co-op. There's a bunch of weapons, a bunch of monsters. There's enough game there, and hopefully enough people like it to where we can continue to support it, because it is actually a lot of fun to work on. It's the coolest game I've ever worked on. I love jumping in and just building new dungeons and thinking of the new monsters and then jumping in and seeing them in VR. It's just fun to be a VR developer because you get to jump in and see your work in front of you or be in the space that you build. So it's incredibly rewarding for us as well to work on this. And so I'm happy with how it came out, and I think it has enough content at launch, but the things that we can add over time, I think will be it will improve the game, make it, last longer and give a lot of value to players. And we have some new things that I'm really excited to start thinking about and designing that I think will be good surprises to players, and hopefully we can pull it off. So there's some new things coming down the line that are exciting.
I think it's a genius way to roll something out,
mm-hmm.
especially if you're going into it with full intent that everyone's on board, that we want to continue this. It's not let's just call it a wrap and move on to the next.
Yeah. We had to build a lot of that into the pipeline and the foundation of the game to where, okay, if we start adding more weapons, can we do that? Or do we have to redesign this entire system? We want to avoid things like that, so.
And I love the concept of potential like sub tiers of dungeon runs. Like here's a more heavy puzzle run. Here's a more, I love that because then I like the
Dude,
puzzle.
I'll take anything. I'll take anything because I'm already a satisfied customer, you know. So it's like anything more is just like yes.
Yeah, and I think
I still get excited with a new weapon, or it might be a
100%.
similar weapon but a different perk that's attached to it, and I get
Just
all
changes a
pumped
little
up
bit.
and oh my god, yeah.
and
that's something we can easily add more perks. So then you just start getting more random weapons again. And it's like, oh, I've never seen this perk. What does this do? Or, none of the magic staffs actually have perks yet. So we start adding those to the magic staffs to where you could, heal someone and then, another perk allows you to resurrect them instantly or something. Or you can maybe heal yourself, or the ice could come up with some new attack that doesn't just freeze one enemy, it freezes multiples. There's really a lot of things we could do. So
a throwable staff.
Javelin, the javelin purge. A lot of people want spears and things like that. So
yeah, the game does so much well. I don't want to be over complimentary, but it's hard not to with a game like this.
It got very good scores from the two of us.
Oh yeah, even down to the simple stuff like the puzzle mechanics that are in it. And the game does a great job making you feel like a hero at the end of each run, whether that's a crystal run and now you're doing the final end fight with the guardians, or what we typically do when we go to use the teleporter and extract out, and then all of a sudden we're got to get our batteries and do a huge battle. I remember way back in the day, I was excited for the lead up of Star Wars The Old Republic. It was like an MMO that was coming out. Yeah. And they had talked that something big that they wanted to do was recreate the Star Wars feel of you're outnumbered. You're one person against 20. Sometimes it feels like maybe it's just because I have a really good rhythm and now I'm like flow state and I'm killing everyone. Yep. Sometimes it feels like I'm able to kill the enemies in the final battle a little bit easier than when there's only 2 or 3 of them attacking us throughout the dungeon. Or when there's a mass amount of enemies coming at you at the end, are they scaled down a little bit, or am I just doing better in the game?
It's the little of you being really good and just taking them out quickly. And part of it's just the way the encounters are set up. Like we could add more of those even over time to where like the end round, you've probably gotten used to the way maybe they spawn in that last. There's only maybe a few different ways that they will spawn in terms of like the cadence of spawning and the enemy types. But as we add more enemy types as well, or we can add more variation there to where they spawn faster and then there's like a break. We just have a limitation with how many you can have on screen, basically, or many active at once with the Quest hardware. It's, with one player, if we knew it was only one player, we could probably triple or quadruple the amount of enemies at once. But, someone else jumps in and then another player jumps in. We can only have, 6 extra enemies at once. And so once one dies, we quickly respawn another to try and make it feel as though you're not fighting one at a time. So we have to play with some of the timings there to make it feel right.
Well, and you're also limited to what power you have in front of you to make this all happen. So I totally get from a technology current standpoint, I get it, where you can't just have an
infinite amount coming out at once. And speaking of three players in total, how did you come up with that number to do a team of 3? Why? I know somebody on Reddit, I was thought, why not 4? Why not 5? What made you decide on 3?
We had 4 at first, and the rooms felt there are several reasons. One, going back to the enemy count, if we have 4, we have to add more enemies. So we're already at like this bottleneck of this. We had a certain quality bar that we hit, and we're like, let's make the game look like this, run like this. We wanted the characters to look like this. They wanted to be full body avatars, that the environments needed to be, we wanted to have large areas, small areas, a big range of different environments and detail. So there were a lot of things there we wanted to retain. So with 3, it also was easier for our development team to work on. So we have a small team. We can have, if we have 6 people working, we have 2 teams as well. So that helps development. And we would, we could just have more enemies on screen. We could have, it was less communication going on. It was a bit more intimate with 3 players. So it's a lot of little decisions like that kind of led us to, let's just do 3 for now. And if we ended up doing anything beyond that later on, we'd have to optimize a lot to make it work for 4, though I still feel like it felt tight in a lot of the areas. And then in bigger areas, it didn't seem to make that much of a difference. So 3 just felt right. Like the more we played it, and it just checked a lot of the boxes, and that's just the direction we went in. Like if we did something like a 5-player raid down the road, we'd probably have to have a whole new set of, content that you go through that's a bit more optimized or downgraded in some way to make it run on the Quest 2, because that's really the main target platform.
I feel like 3 is a sweet number too.
For this style of game, yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
As I was thinking, like 4 to me would just,
we usually
and
do
then
2.
5 would just, why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've played, other, Apex Legends teams of 3, and there's other games out there who kind of do like team 3 versus 4 for different reasons. Unrelated, but one of the inspirations for the game was I used to love playing this game growing up with my dad, actually. So he got me in the games as well. Called Secret of Mana. I'm not sure if you guys ever played that on Super Nintendo, but that was it was a Squaresoft game, and it was basically Zelda, top down isometric, not isometric, but top down perspective, but for the Super Nintendo, and you could have up to 3 players, which it only had 2 controller ports so you had to buy this extra adapter to actually play 3 players on the Super Nintendo. But it's a lot easier these days where you can play it on the Switch and things like that. So, but it was a great 3-player co-op game, like way back in the day, and it was super simple. You could switch weapons to like any type of weapon you wanted to within, there's definitely some inspiration from that game that made it into this game. And I think subconsciously, maybe the 3-player aspect of that, which worked so well, I thought in that game, carried over to this in some way. So
have you just always been like us for VR co-op that's our thing? Have you always just your whole life been a co-op gamer?
I've always loved co-op games. Yeah. It's, like I was saying, I used to play games all the time with my dad, and we'd also play Serious Sam, which was an awesome co-op game. It's just, you just don't think, you just run a gun, and it's just a lot of fun, And so a lot of that, just all like my kids, we play like the latest Mario just came out, and you can play co-op, basically side scroller Mario. So we're loving that. So I love playing co-op games. I've always wanted to make one because it's just fun to interact with your friends and other people like that. But in VR, it's just totally different. We noticed that when we were working at Oculus, like anytime we got people in the same room in VR, it was that magic. They had a demo way back, to show off the Rift controllers, the early touch controllers, and it was called Toy Box. And they put you in a room, and the demo was basically a floating head and 2 hands and a table, very basic looking table, and different colored blocks and everything. And you interacted with someone else across the table, and they could be thousands of miles away because it was just network based, but we'd never seen anything like this before. And it truly was like that magic moment of, oh, I see why Facebook bought this tech. Like this idea of like presence and being in the same room with someone across any distance was magical. And seeing someone across from you interacting with environments or objects and passing them to you, it's like, it truly was magical to see. And I've just been thinking for years, like, need more co-op games. Like, it works really well in VR. So once we had the opportunity, I mean, yeah, co-op just seemed to be perfect for VR. So
I agree. As good as co-op is flat screen in VR, it's
no
different.
Comparison.
And it's for the exact reason you said. You see the other person's avatar right there. They wave at you. Even on just the Oculus, home.
That's the shit, dude. Right there.
Yeah, you invite the other person. They pop out their mad avatar. Home. Then you use the hand tracking with it. Of course, we flip each other off, give each other peace signs.
Yep.
It's something that can only be recreated in VR with hand tracking, and it's such a cool feeling.
Yeah, PC you can use gestures and
stuff, but it's
just
not the
click
same.
Like a
it
button
can't do it. Can't wiggle my hands in real time. My fingers as
or
I'm doing
dance,
it.
do whatever.
Yeah,
that's the power of this technology. It's the only technology that allows you to really step into this digital world, this other space, this other reality, and then interact with others that way. That's what is so cool about it.
And it's only going to get better. The technology, how it is today, is the worst way we'll ever use it going forward. Like, it's only getting better.
Every day you can say that. Yeah.
Wait till again the full upper body tracking's in place. Wait till there's the AI tracked legs fully out. Oh man, social VR is
real avatar scans.
Yeah, that
right.
Which I'd freaking love.
Which I do love the avatar aspect of Dungeons of Eternity. It's one more thing that gets me excited when I find a chest. I like getting new cosmetics, new heads, new armor.
If I don't have it yet, I need it.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. I love unlockables.
Very completionist like that.
So is there plans to add more of that stuff as well? More heads, more face? I saw Elven. I've unlocked some elf stuff. So that's cool,
absolutely. Yeah, that's also one of those, I think, low-hanging fruit. It's a lot of art assets. We have the tools. We have the system built there already. That was a lot of the hard part, so we add more of that. We can just add it to the pool. We are debating if we ever want to theme up any of these and sell them as additional packs or not. We don't, since they're simply cosmetic, we're toying with ideas like that. There will definitely be free cosmetics that we'll add and free updates as well. So,
well, as of right now, they're purely cosmetic. But has there ever been talk to add actual unlockable armor with stats in the game?
We decided to keep it all cosmetic for a lot of reasons. Really simplified things, and then the armor aspect is sort of extracted from that and put into the exo perk system. So you can dress up however you want, look however you want, and not, because that's where it was I want to look like this, or I want to create this type of character. We want to give players a lot of freedom to play how they want, design their character however they wanted to, and keep those other attributes separate. So you don't get too attached to a certain piece of armor, and then you get some new armor which doesn't quite fit the aesthetics you want for your character, then you'd have to lose that. Now, maybe down the road, we add a way to customize your armor or something like that to, add stats to it. But I'm not sure we'll go that route, to be honest.
It makes sense. And I actually prefer having the ability to choose a side perk for my character than necessarily having a glove that's going to give me, 10% attack speed, because like you said,
you hate the way it looks.
Yeah, man. It doesn't go with the motif that I'm sporting for my.
It reminds me of.
I have no problem with the side perk.
MMOs used to do this thing where you could customize your guy with his wearable stat armor, and then you could put a second layer of a visual layer for that same reason, and that's
right.
I think extracting the system out and putting it as the exo system is a way more streamlined.
And the only way you can get those perks is you have to do those specific runs 100%. To get them. So it's even more incentive to do the other.
Yeah, I think the system
other modes
works great. And you referenced, you guys talk a little bit about selling packs and stuff like that. I even saw online people were like, I would buy a DLC for this game. The community seems pretty open on that. So no confirmed plans for DLCs. It's kind of just something you guys are floating around.
Yeah, we're floating it around. There's other ideas we have for DLC too, but it would be things that should be separate from we don't want to sort of add a new realm and then pay for it to where it then splits the user base. We'd have to allow, non-host members to jump in and play that content. So there's some tricky things there on the back end. I think there's a way to do it, but they'd still have to download all of that, even though they didn't buy it. And then they may just jump in with games that people have bought that content already. So we're thinking about how, what type of content we could sell if we end up doing anything like that. And we have some ideas, but it's still up in the air, to be honest.
I think that's how Walkabout does it too.
Correct.
The host
one owns it, the other can play it.
So when you download the game, whether or not you own the DLC packs, you're downloading all of the courses, and then when you buy it, it just gives you access to it.
Yep.
I think that's a good way. It doesn't get the community upset because now I can't play with my friends, and we had to spend $10 total just to play, or $10 each, whatever. So that's a good compromise. But I like that you guys are kind of taking it step by step, not committing to anything.
No, it sounds like a very well laid out plan for the future. And from what I'm hearing, I have no comment on shit, because I totally trust this team to. Yeah, they're going in directions I never even thought of. So,
so the first time we did a co-op run, I was like, this game is going to be a hit. I was even excited for it when they were showed off at the MetaQuest showcase earlier this year too. I just love co-op gaming. And then playing it, I was like, oh yeah, this one's going to be a hit. But for yourself, the reception of the game has been pretty good. When you look at the amount of reviews it's already gotten,
pretty damn good.
You look at the leaderboard numbers, you look at the Discord activity. the reception seems pretty good, but were you expecting it to be as big of a hit as it's been?
We had no idea what to expect, to be honest. You hear things, certain games did this or certain games did that, or, there are this many headsets out there, but you really, honestly, you don't know. We gave out keys early to, guys like you and then other content creators, and then just hope for the best. Like we trusted in the product. We liked the game. We thought other people would like the game, but you never really know until people play it and go out there and voice their opinions about it. And a lot of the content creators really enjoyed it, and they put out some good content. I think that really helped us generate a little bit of buzz and hype leading up to launch. And people seem to like the aspect of playing co-op in VR and a co-op focused game and running through dungeons over and over. So it seemed like the core of the game was interesting to enough people, and that came out. And yeah, the reviews have been really positive. A lot of the negative reviews are things I think around bug fixes that we have coming out very, very soon. So we've addressed a lot of the issues that people run into, and some of those things we just didn't catch, during QA. And when the game comes out and it's more large and at scale and it's growing every day, then we have more reports of certain issues that we've had to address. But the community has been amazing. I think one of the coolest things about the game is the community that has been built around it. I've read a lot of reviews where players have jumped in and they played with random people and they had a great time. And the idea of like your community going toxic or there's bad things going on like that, and we don't want to build that at all. And I think having like a $30 price sort of like helps with a lot of that. And the community has been, I think, really patient with us as well. But just so supportive, and has, gone out and talked about the game with other players or other people and their friends to try and get them to play. And so we also want to continue to add value back by, supporting the game long-term and addressing issues. And we're just figuring out the right balance there where we can get back into development, but also pay attention to the community and keep the game alive and interesting. Well, so the reception has been great. The team is very happy, and we're very, jazzed to get back to it and work on new things.
And are you able to say what some of those bug fixes that you're going to be putting out soon, or ones that you issues that you missed, what those exactly are? Yeah,
there's a big one right now with certain keys can't be picked up, and that's like a host networking join issue that has been fixed. You could drop the batteries in the dungeon raid into a pit and they don't respawn, and you're SOL. That sucks, but that's been fixed. There's a big list of fixes, and some players may not have ever encountered, and things that we were able to go through and we caught along the way, or, we've done bandwidth optimizations. So, it shouldn't take as much networking bandwidth to run the game. And so, it should be faster in certain ways connecting. So a lot of nice quality of life fixes. There isn't any new content. There's been some really subtle fixes, I think, on like the weapons, like some of the models and materials, but new content won't come until the next date, which is targeted around holiday this year. We're going to have something then. We'll be announcing some of that stuff pretty soon, but this first update's more of like bug fix, quality of life, and then holiday, we're going to have something else.
That's quick.
Which is more exciting. Yeah.
Dude, we never encountered those bugs, but do you remember when I almost fell, well, I did fall off the edge, but I was falling off the edge with the battery in my hand, and last second I chucked it. Yeah. I threw it onto the ledge.
Awesome. We assumed if you drop it in a pit, it's gone forever.
That was my assumption about it. And so luckily we never encountered it, but I was damn close. Like I was at the edge and I was like, no.
It was like nice. Slow motion.
It was like movie.
Yeah.
Well, this game gets those great moments. You jump on something from a distance, you slash it as you're going down.
When we started playing, like how hell bent were you on? Like I'm going to jump down and you jumping off chains and shit.
Oh my God. The highest, if there's an enemy below and we were a high distance, I was like, I'm going to movie this. I'm going to jump down. And for a while I was trying to go down stabbing like that. Yep. And I died every time. And then one time I went down and I did the swinging motion and I caught him and I lived. I had like 12 health left. He was dead.
Yeah.
I was like, I did it.
Oh,
I was so happy. It was glorious. So no, the game is just, again, the loop is fun. It gets these organically hilarious
I'm
fun moments.
Blown away at how much it has gotten a hold of me.
And I've been doing some self speculation about leveling. Obviously, it's pretty clear in the game. You level up, the game gets more difficult. My impression is that there's no back end stats like attack power or damage besides your exo points, that you equipped with the perks
or weapon.
Yeah,
stat.
is the only thing that happens when you level up. The game gets harder and you unlock the ability to get new perks. Is it correct?
Correct.
There's nothing else in the back end.
Yeah, we don't have like you leveled up, add a point to strength or dexterity or some other hidden, you don't get more health or anything. Your health is the same through the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
And that we had talked about at one point, we had like a heart system like Zelda or like Half-Life Alyx, Minecraft, whatever, at one point. And that was sort of hard to read, but we were able to add more health easily over time. And that gets hard to balance as well. So we just kept it the same and kept, all the damage coming from the weapon. So as you level up, you are finding the weapons. And so you're, by chance and by just playing more, you have more opportunity to get stronger. And then you're also using the weapons more. So you just get better over time. You learn more moves and you learn how to use the bow and how to aim with the crossbow or how certain things work in co-op better than others, certain situations. And, so there's a lot of that going on. So where you have to,
that was my suspicion that it just scales up in difficulty and loot, but there's no back end stats and stuff like that. And again, I actually like it that way. It keeps it raw to your skill.
For this, yes.
Yeah.
There are other.
One of the things we definitely learned early at Oculus was like this idea of low mental load. Is this concept we pushed a lot of a couple things. Presence, the idea of this is early Oculus days where we wanted to put players into VR and let them forget. Like it's so immersive. And I think some of the best VR experiences are the ones that are really, really immersive. Like when you play Half-Life Alyx, you are her, you're in this other world. It's really immersive. So presence is important. And then you have this low mental load where you don't want to think about what buttons I have to push. I don't want to think about, all of these stats. I don't want to read a lot of things. So we really tried to simplify these systems and streamline them as much as possible. And that was sort of a challenge, taking something that like a Diablo or an action RPG game where it is a lot of like stats and comparing things and holding up your team. Hey, I'm reading all my stats. And, waiting around in VR sucks as well. Like it seems like time moves differently when you're in VR. And so we really tried to streamline a lot of these systems and just keep them super simple. And most people like that. And then other people I think want more detail. They want more options. They want more, crafting or, options there. So, but that was just our design philosophy. So keep it simple.
I think the recipe again for this works. I mean, there's certain games where, I want character stats because it's fitting with the game, but what you have offered and the ability to get it, I mean, it's pretty, and I agree. I don't want to be in VR and have to go right, left, right, up, down, A, B, C to pull something off. I want to do it naturally.
Naturally,
in my life now, like gripping something feels natural.
Well, if you're killing an enemy, it's because, you were able to hit him. It's not a situation where no matter how much you hit him,
you got a good thumb.
Yeah. Unfortunately your attack power is too low. That guy's just it's not like that at all. Like there's so much of it is just your skill. So I appreciate that. I like it a lot. And it's a question that I've seen a lot of people asking. This is probably just because they love the game and they want to, their friends to experience it and stuff like that. Is there plans to bring the game to other platforms like PC VR or PlayStation VR?
Yeah, that definitely comes up probably number one. That's our top question. And we'd love to. We'd love to get it. We built the game to be, wildly accessible. Just anyone could play it. There's no blood or gore in it. So it's rated 10 and up or 13 and up or something like that. Really want as many people to play it as possible. But, we are a small team as well. So we have to prioritize how those things work. If we add another SKU, then we have to maintain that support. And we're adding a whole new group that we have to maintain and upkeep this level quality and polish that we are aiming for. And we also would want to, I think we could just take what we have, put it on Steam under early access or something like that. But the visuals would represent that of like a Quest 2 or really a Quest 3, we could turn on the Quest 3 enhancements on PC. And would people be okay with that? Or are we going to be hearing a lot of, this game looks like shit because it's got mobile visuals, we would like to do it right. Like we'd want to go back through the game, add real-time lighting, add some good post effects, update the models, and that's just a lot of work. And it's, we could probably work with an outside studio to help us port those things, but currently we're just not at that place. Like we're working on improving the base game, fixing the issues. I think we've got through a lot of that now with our next update, and then work on building, in a update cadence that works well for us, our development side, and like delivering, new updates and features that we think will make the game better. And we will revisit those other platforms when it makes sense for us as a team.
Well, as an Oculus user, I am not upset at all about any of this news. So,
and personally, I just love the Quest as well. I think it is.
Yeah.
It's just a great piece of hardware. And once I saw standalone years ago, that was it.
Yeah,
that's where it's going. That's just what it is.
That's what we use, standalone VR only. So definitely that question was more for the VR community than myself.
Sure,
I'm perfectly happy using it on my Quest 3.
I get it, seeing people talk about it and your friends are talking about it, but you don't have a Quest.
Get a Quest, I guess, that's the way.
Yep.
There's
some people think that this game is, technically it's exclusive right now at Quest, but legally it's not exclusive.
Yeah, it's just by that's the way the cookie crumbles internally.
Yep, we decided to focus on one platform because we're a small team.
But I get that too. I think it's totally fair. The game's been out a month, not even a month.
Yep.
Let the game come out. Let the studio take 6 months, a year, get it to where they, no bug issues left on the radar. You add the content that you want, and then start to explore that stuff. Give them a time to breathe. But then you got people like me that play.
Let them have a party,
Yeah. But then, of course, there's people like me. I play the game. We sit down in that section with the chairs that you can have your player sit. And there's like the tankards with the mugs over there. And there's the beer tap that doesn't pour beer, but my brain's instantly going, I want it to pour beer. So instantly, it's so selfish.
Called ale, brother.
Yeah. It's so selfish for me as a consumer, or it could even be mead. A great game comes out. It's been out for a month and I'm instantly like, what else could I add? But that's unfortunately the way the brain goes. Has there ever been thought to lean a little bit more into those social features, like that little bit of sitting around by the fire, pouring beers, or I saw people saying, hey, can I trade with my friends?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely, we have a big feature in mind, hopefully next year that would be when we would target the release of this. So we're putting together some plans there, and something we've been thinking about for a long time. Like, we thought maybe we could get something like this out for launch. It didn't make it, and I don't think we needed it for launch, but it'd be a good update. And it's nice to hear that, other players are maybe wanting that or could see that being part of the games. Then it makes sense. It doesn't feel like this other thing that doesn't fit. It should feel like a natural addition to the game. So the social things are really cool. Like, I think we want to continue to push on things like that. I think a lot of people will jump in just to interact with other players. Of course, they're friends, but even if, if the community continues to stay where it's at, which is, it just seems like such a nice group of people playing the game and interact with each other, then adding something like that, like maybe a larger space where players can interact, would be something that I think a lot of people would enjoy. And we have fun building it because of those reasons. That's something we're thinking about.
I have the want. I want these features, but I don't have the solution of how exactly it to implement it. I've been even thinking about it. I'm like, well, if you sat around there and there's all three of you at the table, what if you could like pre-plan your dungeon run a little bit? But I'm like, well, you can already see the map over there. So I have the want, but I don't even quite understand.
You don't know what you want.
I don't know what I want. I don't know how I want to see incorporated.
You want something, but don't know what it is you want.
100%.
You're just looking for another reason to be able to go in there.
Well, because imagine if we could, not required, you could still do a dungeon run perfectly fine without it. But imagine if just to hang out, we could take 5 minutes before the run and look at a map of the dungeon and pre-plan some route or something. I don't know what, but there's
you almost need a little bit more information to where it's like, oh, I definitely want to bring my bow this time, or I'm definitely going to, load up with this time. And, I think I definitely know what you mean. And we've had similar ideas, and the community wants like a dungeon master mode and all these cool features. And how would we do that without, we just got to figure some of that out. You know, 'cause those are all the things we want to do as well. It's like, oh, yeah, we sit around all the time and brainstorm, and we've, you know, the amount of things that got into the game is just a tiny fraction of the things we've definitely talked about and wanted to do for the last couple of years. So.
A dungeon master mode. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, it's bittersweet to me because so much of what the game is special for is the random. So if somebody pre-made the dungeon too, it's still great, but it's great for other reasons. But you know that there would be like top community shared dungeons, like, oh, this dungeon mapper is the best, man. Go check out, you know, Swords of whatever, you know. So there's a lot of potential there as well.
It's kind of endless potential. It's just, I just have faith that whatever comes into the game moving forward is going to be equal to or a better, which is already a great experience, but I just don't see any downslope to it at all.
No, and hearing Ryan talk, you can tell everything that they go to add, they're talking it over. They're making sure it works with the game. We want to do it right.
You know, I mean, we know a lot about development teams and we've spoken to a shit ton of them, but this is a very rare team to me where it's made up of people who have actually been, you know, not just developing games and working on technology, but working on it for a company who has actually changed the way, you know, the masses can have VR now. So it's a very unique, so there's inner knowledge to that, you know. We call it the secret hooded gathering of people that make or break your games for Oculus. The mighty secret, the Illuminati of Oculus. But no, to have even a few people on a team that have that ability to have that background is just different. It's not,
again, you see the experience when it's just
they're gamers.
A fun game.
They enjoy playing games. Correct. So it's even better because they want to play games, and to be able to want to play your own game is pretty impressive.
Dude, I'm mind blown that he's still encountering new dungeons and new layouts. That's insane.
Yeah, but Ryan's not dying. So.
Yeah. And that's a good point. He's probably completing
you counter whatever you want. I'm pretty confident Ryan is not dying.
He's probably clearing it. And you know, you mentioned that the staffs were the game solution to magic. That's how you're going to incorporate the magic. Boom, the staffs. Has there been talk to expand magic into other weapons? Like I saw people speculating like magic gloves to shoot spells or
I'll talk about the gloves because I've been wanting some gauntlets for a long time. And I think this could solve a lot of it could be like multiple weapons in one. And that's sort of what we're looking at too. Like, how can we consolidate a lot of ideas that people are wanting? Now we have to address everything, but you know, it's got to align with our plans and like our systems. And then, okay, this makes sense. And gauntlets, with our system, you can equip any, you know, either side or whatever. You have two, you know, left and right holsters. So you could say, I want a glove on my left or my right or both. You could have ones that, you know, you could punch enemies, you know, or pull the trigger and become Wolverine. So blades come out or something cool like that. And these could be like different perks, right? So one perk could be a small shield. So you pull the trigger and the shield comes out. So I know people want like one-handed shields and then also like a magic staff. So they could do something like that because right now the shields are all in your back. So you can't take that and a staff or, you know, a bow and, or like a crossbow and a shield. You can't do that. So if you had something like it was just on your hand, then you could do that. And then you could absolutely have, you know, the Thanos glove and have gems on the top, just one. And you could shoot fireballs or something like that. So you could totally put magic into like a magic gauntlet and then have to replace the gem. So
and that would also allow you to do, you know, like
there are ways to do that. So
Assassin's Creed Hidden Blade too. Yep. You know, I think it's kind of not important, but it's a nice.
It'd be great for the zombies. You could do that.
Yeah, they get close to them. I always feel like players enjoy in these games when there's Easter eggs. You know, you mentioned like the Thanos glove, or if you had like the hidden blade, or I joked earlier, like a lightsaber. You know, I think those type of call outs and references, Easter eggs are always a nice random loot treat to find in this game. But I did see a lot of people asking about gloves, so I think that's a great one.
Yeah, because people want to box they want to box the enemies.
Dude, imagine pulling the trigger.
I won't lie, I've wanted to. I've used my weapons to, even the shield. The first time I got a shield, I'm like, let me see, can I beat people with it? Yeah.
Well, if you hit people with the hilt of your sword, it's kind of like a melee weapon, like a fist, right? But no, imagine holding your fist out and then like a crossbow pops out and you shoot like that. Oh my goodness.
Little mini.
Yeah. So much potential with it. So I love
a lot of stuff with that one.
I know it's hard to comment specifically, but Is there any other weapon types that you can say that, not that you're going to add, but that you as a consumer going into the player side of you would like to see added into the game?
Yeah, I think you could do like what are they, Morning Stars? We have the spike ball on the chain and you could swing that around. That would be cool with the physics system, So that, and then maybe it's, also like I don't know what kind of class of weapon that would be, like almost like a whip or something too. You could maybe do something like that. Spears and javelins, people are asking for a lot. So like a two-handed pole. They have the melee stick already. I don't know why they want the pole. So we'd make like a cool two-handed staff, with like a spear or something like that. You can have like tridents and all sorts of weapons like that. So there's a lot we could do. The gauntlet's probably my favorite that I would like to really push and try and add something like that. So,
well, it makes sense. You play the game enough, you want something on your hand. So I totally get it. And I think people just want a long staff so they can be like that monk, like a classic, monk with a long staff and start going crazy. Because the game lets you grab anywhere on each weapon. So if you had like a long staff, you could start to get good at twirling it. And
I was going to say there'd be people that would
behind the back, going over the shoulder. Oh my goodness. Or nunchucks. And I saw people on Reddit in the Discord asking about swinging weapons. So I definitely think that'll be a big community liked one. Imagine swinging the
exactly,
the ball and chain. Oh my goodness.
The ball and chain. Yeah. Nunchucks. That might be like,
nunchucks would be a little crazy.
That might be the first one out of, not that it's a real scenario anyways, but just,
Mm-hmm. And we kind of glossed over it, but I got one more big question, and then we can let you go. I think we could hold you hostage for several more hours just talking Dungeons of Eternity easily. But
I haven't been looking at the clock on this one. I'm like, if I don't look,
we can talk however long you guys want.
Again, the game's co-op. Is there plans for PvP, or is that nothing you guys can commit on right now?
We've definitely thought about that in terms of we have a lot of the tech there already. It seems like we could probably put that together. It was interesting to hear the community feedback on that. There are people that talk about wanting PvP, and then you hear a lot of players saying they don't want that. They want to just keep it co-op, and because that's what the game is. And I'd have to agree with that side to where that's just what this game is. I think if we ever did PvP, and I'm not now saying anything, but I think it'd have to be like a separate SKU altogether. Like it's its own app or game, because it's like a different thing. And maybe it's a free to play, PvP thing, but not to say we'll never do that with Dungeons of Eternity, but I think it's a co-op game. So
I agree. Like Demio did with Demio Battle, or is doing with Demio Battles. I think that Demio is a co-op game for PvP. Now it's got its own title. I think that's the correct way to do it.
Yeah.
I think what makes Dungeons of Eternity special is being able to go in.
Yeah, the formula being used it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice and spicy.
Yeah, no, I'm hooked. I'm hooked on dungeon runs. Again, getting loot doesn't get old to me. But what happens when you run out of aesthetics to unlock? You got all of your clothes, all of your faces. Do you just unlock another weapon in place?
You'll just keep unlocking weapons then at that point. You can max out all the cosmetics. There's a finite number, and then the weapons will just continue to generate new weapons forever.
Understood. That was my theory. I was like, every time I'm getting a cosmetic, it's nice. I love unlocking it. And then it's also nice where I go mentally, that would be a weapon instead, is what I think to myself.
Yeah. So technically, eventually you will unlock everything. But to get to that point, you have to get to level 50, which on average, I'd have to really look at the back end, like time played, but it's on estimated 50 to 60 hours, depending on many factors. So that's just like a rough guess. But depending on how much XP you get from, dungeon runs and the amount of dungeons you'd have to do, that it takes around that long. So you run out of things to collect, but you have put in maybe 80 hours of playtime at that point. So by then, hopefully we've, you still find fun in other ways, or we add more styles to the weapons and other content that keeps you interested.
Even if we weren't getting loot, I think it would still be fun just going in and doing a 30-minute, 40-minute dungeon run easily. The game is just it's a fun gameplay loop. But for yourself, with there being 3 game modes currently, we focus mainly on dungeon runs, the raids. For yourself, do you have a favorite mode?
Definitely dungeon raid. That's the classic mode. I think over time, the other two modes will just improve by like Crystal Hunt's supposed to be more puzzles and traps, but we didn't ship with that many puzzles and trap rooms. So as we add more of those, that mode itself will probably just change just automatically to where you're going in and the rooms you're seeing now are more traps and slower paced. And it's more like a get the crystal and escape sort of Indiana Jones, like get into the temple and leave type of thing. And then we can, over time, even play with different layouts there relatively easily to where maybe it's not one hub, maybe it's 2 hubs or 3 hubs, and you have to collect crystals. And because I think everyone's favorite mode is Dungeon Raid. I think that's what makes the game, those are the more interesting modes. But I do like I like the final battle in Crystal Hunt. I think we can improve that over time too, or have more variation there. But yeah, as we add more traps and puzzles, that'll change. And then Soul Harvest, I think, we have some interesting ideas on how to continue to improve that as well. But that's a quick, get in, play a little horde mode type game mode, and then hop out. And that was kind of the idea with that mode. Something else to do. But we can improve that one over time as well.
Well, and I kind of also like for time commitments, we've kind of figured out what size dungeon and how long it'll take before we even play it. And then the other run, like doing an EXO run, we kind of figured out how long it'll take. And
yeah,
same thing and so on and so on. So it makes it's good because not everyone can spend an hour. And dude, sometimes because we're completionists when we do dungeon runs, if we pick a big dungeon, it's like we are not missing a room. Even if it's a situation where there was a chest at the beginning, but we didn't pick up a key till
you run all the way back.
We will go all the way back. Does not matter. So we can be in it.
That's why I love finding a map. If I can get the map cube, it's essential because then I'm so OCD about making sure I hit every room. But seeing that the open chests in the rooms that you hit already, it's like nice little checkpoints. Yeah,
man, the map was a big, great addition to the game. It seems obvious, but we did have like an older map system before that, to where you could just tap your wrist and it would pop up like a 2D map, and it was somewhat useful, just kind of seeing where you're at, but really wanted to have some. So then we went back and forth. Do you need a map? Is it all about exploration and you're just kind of lost? And then we had a lot of requests for maps. And is there ever going to be a map? Like, don't know where to go. And so we just bit the bullet and said, let's go and try and implement this idea that we had for a map, which was what's in the game now, to where there's this techie thing to where you can look at it yourself, but then you could share it as well. And throwing it on the ground and sharing it was, this worked out way better than we thought it was going to. And then we put the little chest, and it's that, we've been here. I've seen this one open, and it worked out really well to kind of give a bit more understanding and value, I guess, to the dungeon. It felt like a real, consolidated place that we were exploring, and we can find everything and feel like we've discovered it all, but we have to find this map first, and then we have to work together. And it's just these little natural, social moments that happen. I think that was a surprise to us when we made that map be shareable, that how fun that ended up being and how much value it added to the exploration and game.
No, I agree. I love it. It's essential.
Even if we know where we're going in the dungeon, because sometimes I can pre-memorize the routes, and we find a map, we're still throwing it on the ground.
Yep. It's just cool.
No reason not to.
Yeah, seeing the holograph pop up, and I also love
look
that.
At it.
Even if it is in your partner's hand, that you can still see it. It's just smaller,
I like expanding.
Yeah, great feature though. But before we let Ryan go here, did you have any other questions that we didn't get to?
Oh my god, dude!
I know
it's a good one. We have to get Ryan back on sometime.
We can do that too.
Because
when that first content update's ready, we'll get you back on. We'll talk about that.
So we got years worth of shit to talk about. Now, I actually like that you brought up Gauntlet a couple of times. I was an old school Gauntlet player, so it's like I kind of get that same feel with the dungeon, because I've always thought, like, why hasn't someone made a Gauntlet? And I'm like, well, how would you actually do it? So
and that's what we ran into as well. It's like, it seems easy enough, like it's familiar. We know how we could put together a Gauntlet game, but then other things that just don't work in VR.
Well,
so we had to
this one
figure that out.
Is very well put together, works very well. I encourage everyone who likes co-op gaming, go get Dungeons of Eternity. They got a great community, like you said, people that play with randoms.
Non-toxic, helpful.
Yep.
Yeah,
you can
really
go
nice.
join our Discord. You can find matches, but more importantly, go join the Dungeons of Eternity Discord. Go find, some players to play with, and also stay in the loop of what's coming. You guys have done some
no shortage of content coming for the game.
Yep.
I saw some community contests already too, so it sounds like you have a lot in the works with community engagement. So definitely go check out their Discord. And more importantly, Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time talking with us. Like I said, we'll definitely get you back.
Very excited for this one.
This was a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah,
let's definitely do it again.
One of the best releases of the year, easily. It's going to be a hard one to beat for the best co-op game of the year. It's very fun. So hats off to you. Hats off to the whole team.
I'm glad you guys like it.
Yeah, the whole team at Othergate. You all crushed it. So round of applause to everyone.
Hopefully they get some downtime in the future.
Yes, well deserved, but it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like that they have endless ideas of things to come. Because of people like me, you released a great game and then instantly we're like, hey, can you add this? Can you add this? Can you add this? And you love it and you want to add it too. So it's tough.
We'll figure out the balance there.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what comes. And again, thank you so much for taking the time with us, Ryan. For the listeners, go check out Dungeons of Eternity. Go join their Discord.
5 stars, 4 stars.
Yeah, rate it 5 stars in the store.
Whatever the max is in the store.
Any bugs you encounter, the fixes are coming soon. And
They're
other
coming.
than that, rate us 5 stars, subscribe. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.
Ciao, ciao.
See ya.